And hello, movie lovers. And today I actually have Nick back on the show, and he's going to be finishing out the season with me for Game of Thrones House of the Dragon. This is going to be episode 8. I can't wait to talk about this. And let's go on ahead and get on with the show. Hey, Nick, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are you doing, John?
I'm doing great. And it's even better because we're actually joined together to be able to talk about House of the Dragon episode 8. This is hands down one of my favorite TV shows. It's probably one of the best TV shows on the air right now,
Hmm.
currently. And let me just go ahead and give a little bit of synopsis of what this plot entails. This is actually episode 8 called The Lord of the Tides. 6 years on, Corlys Valeron, Lord of the Dripmark, is severely wounded fighting in the Stepstones. His brother, Sir Vaemon, petitions King's Landing to name him as Corlys's heir, proclaiming Rhaenyra's son, Lucius, the legitimate heir to the throne. Rhaenyra and Daemon return to the capital to defend Larys's claim. They find King Viserys and is bedridden and disfigured, imminently muddled. So let's go on ahead. Let's dive into this. So the first thing I like is the fact that we actually see these characters on the ship for the very first time in 6 years, and I like how they go into this thing. It's like, well, the king is no longer the one who's commanding anything. It is now the queen that's commanding things. I'm like, so I found that very interesting because of the fact that it was setting up in episode 7 about how she was actually really demanding. She was
Hmm.
trying to take over. And that was something that I was really fearful because of the fact that she wanted to show her dominance over that. Because I wasn't sure what kind of queen that she would be because she has this beef with Rhaenyra
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So that was something that I was kind of interested on how the politics were going to come into play with that because of that reason. And then also, too, I was thinking that she was also going to be too harsh towards him as well.
Hmm. Yeah. No, I was definitely getting worried about Allison early on when they alluded to that, and then when you see
Oh,
later on in the episode that it's the hand that's sitting on the Iron Throne, so it's like almost the will of the father guiding the daughter king, queen. And you can just tell they're trying to set her up to be the ultimate villain. I think you froze a little bit there, John.
so what did you think of?
Oh. All right, you're moving now.
So what did you think of that scene?
Uh, Yeah, so I thought that was pretty heavy because it was like, you get a little foresight. It's been a little while, and Rhaenyra is really just like, I haven't seen my family in 6 years. Like, it's been a long time. Last time we saw each other, it wasn't the best terms, and now there's this like huge claim against them. That's like the ultimate slap in her face, even though it's 100% valid.
Right, and I can understand why Corliss's brother would be there. It's understandable because and he has every right to be there
Hmm.
because of the fact that he is the rightful heir because of the rightful heir. But on the other hand, you also know why Rhaenyra is there, which is also completely understandable as well. So both of these people are both not wrong in their own right
Yeah.
or anything either. That's something else I really liked about it was the fact that no one's right or wrong in this episode,
Hmm.
and everybody's there for a purpose. And
Yeah.
then, of course, you can feel that tension, especially whenever Rhaenyra goes into her own home and she doesn't even recognize her own home because of the fact that you have basically you have some people removing stuff from uh from their house and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. And then I mean, right after that scene too, as we go into the court scene where you know they're talking to Aemon, and he just has his outburst and it's so powerful and passionate. And obviously, you feel it because those are clearly not his blood kids. However, they're set to inherit the blood kin, I should say, not kids, and they're clearly about to inherit the throne for the Sea King. So I just thought that it was awesome that he was like kind of going nuts about it, and then obviously the way that it all ends right
I
after he
definitely
calls, the children bastards and the queen a whore, which is obviously a mistake, and takes everything that was articulated so beautifully beforehand and kind of just comes crashing down, and it becomes his downfall because obviously Damon just slices his head.
that was
And
probably one of my favorite parts of that whole entire scene. It was shocking, but also too, we actually see this before between him and Damon before out on the battlefield, questioning
yeah,
Damon's motives and stuff like that. And of course, Damon was always pissed off at him from the begin with. But I
mhm,
like how Damon pretty much antagonizes him. He goes,
yeah,
"Just say
just say
it,"
it.
and he knows he's gonna say it. He
Yeah,
goes, "They're bastards,"
mhm,
and then all of a sudden, you see Viserys. He goes over there and goes, "I'm gonna have your tongue for that." Next thing
mhm,
you know, it Damon goes on ahead and goes, whack, just goes
yeah,
on ahead, cuts off his head, and I love that. That scene was shocking, but also pretty cool to actually see. But
yeah,
before we also get into that, there was also something else that really, I have to say, that really caught my attention was
yeah,
the conversation between Viserys and also Rhaenyra,
mhm,
and seeing him bedridden like that, and it just broke Rhaenyra's heart and also
oh yeah,
Damon's heart to see that, and you I like the whole makeup and the cosmetics that they used for Viserys. I mean, it was really haunting. You can definitely tell that this guy is just deteriorating from the inside
mhm,
out. And it was also making me question that maybe that tea that, that his darling wife made him, wanting him to
just
do.
heroin.
Yeah. So that also explains why he's dying.
Yeah,
So,
he's literally on smack, just in tea form. But hey, if there's a way to go and you're not overdoing it, just kidding. It's not. We do not advocate heroin use.
no. But this is another thing that I thought that was actually smart with the writing was the fact that Rhaenyra's worried about her inheritance and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
of course, I like how they also bring it in the fact, well, it was your dad's fault because of the fact that he ended up making you the heir to the throne,
Hmm.
and that's why we're in this predicament right now. This is why there's that shift and also that split between the families,
Yeah.
and why also too that you also have this beef war between the kids.
Hmm.
Well,
Yeah. And so I saw something that was interesting on that, and we'll get into it later, but it has something to do with the arc of this episode, following the text pretty closely, actually, to how the book goes. Which I have not read the book, so I'm kind of a poser on that end. But I just found it interesting. I'll dive more into it a little bit later, but definitely cool. Hmm.
but another thing too that really got my attention was also how she tried, where Rhaenyra's trying to break a deal with not Viserys, but
Oh
let's see
yeah,
here, you know what I'm talking about.
with the queen that never was.
Yeah, the queen that never
Yeah.
was, basically, and how she's trying to say, "Hey, look, if we unite our houses together, we will be
Hmm.
stronger." Trying to do basically what she tried to do with Viserys's
Yeah.
wife, and of course, Allison didn't fall for it, and neither did she. She
Hmm.
said, "No, it's called desperation." But
Yeah.
I'm also thinking on the same side of Rhaenyra. Well, who cares if it's to make your house stronger because they're running out of people?
Yeah.
It's another thing.
Well, and then ultimately in the court, when she comes forward about the situation, she says, "I believe these are Valerian children," and then she drops that Rhaenyra has promised the hands of both kids. So she kind of flips it on her and is like, "Yeah, you made a desperate offer. I'm upping the ante because I know you can't say no."
Exactly. And then I like how Viserys just comes in there, busting up in there,
Hmm.
and Otto's in charge of this thing though too, calling the shots, and I don't think Otto's making the right decisions either. And he's just trying to
His hubris is
basically, yeah, trying to screw the inheritance over into the rightful heir for the person that he wants in there, which is Allison's kids.
yeah.
And you have Allison's kid, who Lord Jerkoff,
Hmm.
who which is also Lord Fuckpants, but
And now
basically
Lord
he,
Rapist also.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's nice to have as a king. Yeah,
Hmm.
I'm just gonna say that.
Hmm. Good leadership
But
material.
yeah, and then she pays off the maids and tells her, "Don't worry, here's your gold," and then pays her off, and also too makes her drink from the same cup, basically, of what Rhaenyra did to make sure there was not going to be a baby.
Yeah. I'm honestly surprised she didn't just kill her.
I am too. That's what I thought she was going to do, to be honest
Yeah,
with you, because if you remember the maidens, they're like, "Well, where's maiden da da da?"
yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
No one saw you come here. Like, you have no shot.
No,
Mhm,
he's too loyal. I just. But
mhm.
then you see this whole entire deal where Viserys is crawling his way up to the
Mm.
throne, which I was like, man, the balls on this guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like, no, I'm the king. You
Mhm.
guys need to fall in line. And even though this might be my last time that you get to see me alive, I'm going to make sure that I make this right with both
Yeah.
sides, not just one side.
And my heir that I named 20 years ago, that has been the heir ever since and has done nothing to lose that, is still my heir.
Right.
Um, Something I thought that was really cool about that scene too. So when the crown falls off his head, that wasn't intended. That was something that was improv, just kind of happened in the moment while they were doing a take, and the cameras kept rolling, and that Matt Smith ended up walking over there, picking it up, putting it on his head because the director never called cut, and obviously that's the take that they used
I
because
love that take though, man,
so
because
powerful.
it does. I mean, I'm heavy is the crown that heavy is the king that, well, you know what I'm
Hmm.
saying. Heavy is the crown that wears the crown.
Yeah.
But also too, I like that moment of weakness where
Hmm.
basically Damon comes in and picks up and wants to help him. And at first, he thought it was his royal guards. No, but no, it's his brother
Yeah.
showing respect to Viserys, even
Hmm.
though they had their differences. He's like, just because we had our differences, we're
Yeah.
still blood, no matter what. I still love you. And
Hmm.
even whenever in episode 7, whenever Damon's wife or
Hmm.
dies too, he's like, well, we had our differences. Come back to King's Landing. Of course, Damon said it's no. In this one, he still respects Viserys to the point where he wants to take
Yeah.
care of him. His brother is dying, and and I like how he picks up the crown, puts it back on his head, and then he goes back to where he was standing at, and his brother ends up trying to strain out this whole entire mess that Otto has.
Hmm. Yeah. And I mean, the whole time too, like in between with all the jumps in time, he's probably been a pretty good king too. So I feel like, as a brother who's aged and matured over his years, he probably recognizes that and it's like, I need to help him out, like beyond just, the bonds of brotherhood, but also the fact that like this is a good king and in the moment he's gonna do the right thing. So I think that was like just the ultimate like, way that they could display that. Like the brotherhood is finally back together, and of course it's gonna fall apart soon.
That's something that I really enjoyed about that, though, was
Mhm.
because of the fact that you have Viserys, he's they're being called out on his own BS and stuff like that too, but he's like he owns up to it. That's the thing I like about this king. He's a good dude. He
Mhm.
even asked his rightful people, he's like, "Look, am I a good king?"
Yeah,
And at that time, is like the guy's like, "No, I don't know yet. It's still too soon, basically."
yeah. The only guy that was honest.
Right. And so
Hard for
he's
that.
right, and so Viserys probably made it his goal, like, look, I want to be go down as a good king. So in order
Yeah.
for me to do that, I have to go back and self-reflect on myself, self-examine myself, and then go ahead and make the moves that I need to properly make.
Mhm.
Be that rightful king that everybody wants to see me as. I want people to see me as, which is something beautiful.
Exactly. Yeah, and, like, that's what made, I think, like, the next scene too, where they're all finally at dinner together,
Yeah.
and he just, for one moment, wants to have a happy family moment, and that speech is so impassioned, like, "I want you to see me how I actually am." He takes off the golden mask, which interesting foreshadow that I also saw, um, Prince Viserys in, Game of Thrones, the guy that has the golden crown melted on him, when he dies, it's covering his face just like that. It matches the similar shape and look to King Viserys in this one.
See, I forgot all about that.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, I remember the melting, but I didn't know that there was like the identical.
yeah, it only covers part of his face. So that's an interesting little thing. I guarantee they did that on purpose. Um,
Dude,
yeah, that was a beautiful scene though. Like everybody apologizing to each other, and then ultimately Aemon's like super sarcastic, just dick move speech.
yeah, everybody else, I'm like, okay, so when basically Rhaenyra apologized to Allison, I'm like, is she really meaning what she says? Is it really heartful, or is just like this thing where it's like, you know what, I'm gonna play this off.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Just to please my dad, kind of thing. But no, it was actually touching. It was heartwarming. Also,
Yeah.
too, I like how Vasiri, like you mentioned, he goes, "Look, I'm tired of this shit. You
Mhm.
guys just need to work through your problems, and that's it.
Yeah.
I'm tired of this bickering. There should not be a split.
Mhm.
We need to unite these houses together as one like we used to be."
Mhm.
And I like that. And then you have the little jerk offs who
Yeah.
basically are like, "Oh, I like how strong you are." And of course, that just sets them off because of the fact that they don't see them as strong; they see them as weak. And it's
Mhm.
not something that he actually. It's something that actually meant he's. They're not strong, and
Mhm.
he's being sarcastic about it.
Yeah. No, totally, and, like, it's kind of a foreshadow too, I think, to kind of the fractures that are gonna happen now with Rhaenyra and Allison too, because like, in that scene, right before the boys get into the fight, you know, they kinda make up a little bit, and it seems like there might be hope for their friendship going forward, and then the rest of the episode, like, they definitely seem a little bit closer to one another up until the very end, when Allison gets that, piece of information from,
Right.
uh from the king, and at that point, I think there's gonna be a major turn.
I see a major turn happening because now she knows what he's been whispering in Rhaenyra's ear
Mhm.
when he thought he was actually talking to his daughter. Instead, it
Yeah.
was Allison, and now she has a strategy built on now with the whole Game of Thrones situation,
Mhm.
where now she's going to be playing the Game of Thrones
Yeah.
scenario. And
Except
then you
it's the
also,
wrong Aegon.
yeah, and I feel bad for the kids that are called the bastards because of the fact that they are good kids. And I
Mhm.
like how Viseri knows. You can tell the dude
Yeah.
knows. He's not stupid. But he still takes them in as his own
Mhm.
grandkids and treats them with love and respect. Unlike some of the other characters I know in Game of Thrones, where basically you
Yeah.
wind up sending your bastard son to the wall to freeze
Mhm.
to death.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
Starks were not good people. Team Lannister all day.
right. So that's why I like Viseri a lot. Is
Yeah.
because of the fact he's a good dude. This dude
Mhm.
loves his grandkids. He loves his kids. He just wants them to get along. You can feel that tension at the table at first
Mhm.
beforehand. And that was something that I really liked though too, is whenever you have that small tension. And then once you get through that small tension part, and he's like, "Look, you guys need to make up." Next thing you know, you have Allison. And I like how Neri goes on ahead and says this, "You've been there for my dad since day one. I just
Yeah.
want to say thank you for taking care of my dad. Even
Mhm.
though you're giving him heroin, I still appreciate the
Settling.
fact that you're still trying to help my dad. And through thick and thin, she's been there for him,
Mhm.
regardless of their differences. Which I thought that she would be the one to kill him, or the Macers would be the one.
Yeah. Well, she kinda killed him over time with heroin.
And didn't know it, but
Yeah. Sure, I mean, that's probably medicine for them, but yeah.
but yeah,
I did find it, what was I gonna say with this? Sorry, come back to me. I just lost my train of thought.
okay. But then also too, another thing that winds up happening is this: like when you have the two, I like how the two brothers go down to where they once trained
Mhm.
as kids, and just saying, "Hey, do you remember this little mark over here?"
Yeah.
And he goes, "Oh, I remember this place being a lot bigger than what it is.
Yeah.
Now it just seems kind of small."
Mhm.
So I like how they actually do this little thing where it's been 6 years later. It's been 6 years since they've been inside this kingdom,
Mhm.
and they're just paying homage to where they once were.
Yeah.
So I definitely like that.
It was cool to see too, I don't know if you watched like, post-show, info, but, they were talking about that scene and how, like, when they shot it this time around, they had a lot less people and stuff going on because it's a much colder time, much more conservative at King's Landing, so, um everything else, like, they showed the side by side from, like, the first few episodes. It's, like, very vibrant, and there's lots of happy people moving around and people talking in the streets, and then there's none of that now. So it's, like, literally a totally different city from when the boys left it.
Right, because that's something else that we were talking about before with Allison, for example, taking out everything that was Targaryen,
Mhm.
and now it's everything that resembles her
Yeah. Like, her
versus
religion.
it. Right. Now she
Mhm.
found religion. Now she's going to do everything that represents her lifestyle versus it being Tigerian.
Yeah, big shift.
Yeah. And of course, Rhaenyra doesn't recognize her own home. So basically, she just wants to go back home
Mhm,
to Dragonstone and just forget this place, anyways.
mhm.
But my thing is this: you remember how one of the brothers is like, "I don't know if I'm going to be a good captain or a good choice." You
Yeah.
think he's going to be good for Driftwood or not?
Um, yeah, I think so because their kids definitely have to survive somehow, or at least one of them does. So, uh, yeah, I think he'll be okay. Like he's definitely courageous and like he's obviously willing to fight his own kin. If it means saving
Right.
another one of his own kin. So I don't know. I think he'll be okay.
This other thing also reminded me of Joffrey, though. Basically, talking smack at the dinner table, where
Hmm.
he's like, "If you want to be with a real man,
Oh yeah,
come see me." I'm like, dude, you probably
yeah.
couldn't even get it up even if you tried, even if you had heroin. That
Well, and then his wife's speech too. Oh, marriage is great. Mostly he just ignores you, and then you know sometimes he doesn't when he's drunk. Like what?
isn't that just lovely?
You say that to people in a royal court? Like, are you insane?
You see, that's just things that normal everyday people wouldn't say. That's what there's a difference in dialect whenever you look at how royal families, for example, or just people that have that high power, like a king or
Mhm.
queen, have. Their dialect and the way they talk to people is completely different than how
Yeah,
normal people actually talk. And that is being one of them, you
mhm,
know?
yeah,
But so then, of course, we wind up seeing that one last shot after Viseri winds up telling Allison that who the rightful heir actually is, and now it puts a little bit of whisper in her ear to try and get things hurried up and done.
yeah,
Or Rhaenyra winds up
mhm,
trying to course direct back over into doing what she was
mhm,
doing.
yeah. And so that's actually what I was alluding to earlier. I didn't want to just jump to it. Something that I saw is that in the books, Allison really pushes hard on Aegon being the heir, right? But her getting that like whisper confession from him about the Song of Fire and Ice, that doesn't happen in the books. So it's kind of like a nice little homage to add a little bit more fuel to her claim over whether or not Aegon's the true heir. Um, that's where those fissures are really going to form because now like Otto's obviously going to be the main driver behind this as the hand and head
I
of
can
that
see that.
family. But they're going to be pushing Aegon, who's already clearly a nutcase, and Aemon, who's actually a functional nutcase.
To be
To
honest with
be,
you, Heyman reminds me of Damon in so many ways.
oh yeah,
His
there's certain guys I love.
mannerisms, yeah.
Yeah,
I love how they got an actor that looked and resembled the actual actor that's playing Damon
mhm,
to a T, and it's uncanny on how much they actually look alike.
yeah, exactly.
That's something that I really liked about it.
Hmm.
But I think that if I had to pick someone that's actually strong as far as Allison's side, I think you would have to go with someone that's actually like Damon in a sense
Hmm. Yeah,
because of
they,
his
they needed
arrogance.
they needed a character to balance him out,
Right.
like a Black Knight versus a Black Knight.
Agreed. But what did you think about the ending as far as Viseri dying? And
I thought, I mean, from an acting standpoint, that was fantastic way of displaying it. Reaching for what's above you as if you're calling for like one last grasp, and then going ultimately in his sleep. I thought it was tasteful.
I have to say this: the actor that's playing Viseri is doing a fantastic job.
Yeah.
And if anything, he needs to get an award this season.
Hmm. Oh,
Seriously,
he'll get an Emmy.
he needs to
Oh,
get an Emmy.
yeah.
Seriously, the acting ability that he did in all 8 episodes is just fantastic.
Yeah.
But I thought too that it pulled on my heartstrings to see him go the way
Hmm.
he did. But it was also heartfelt and heartwarming to know that he's not suffering anymore either.
Yeah.
And he's able to see it. Now, this is something that I really liked at the dinner table, though, too. I know that I've talked about the dinner table a lot, but I liked how, for one last moment, he got to see his family being happy and
Hmm.
rejoicing and toasting to each other,
Mhm.
regardless of what happened after he left. That's
Yeah.
how he's going to remember it when he died.
Mhm.
And that one last memory. And to me, I think that was a good touch and a beautiful, well written
Yeah,
and
it was kind of
poetic.
the cherry on top to a life well lived, even though it had its hardships of carrying the crown, literally sitting on a throne of sorts.
Right. And then you also have this whole entire thing where the queen that wasn't B, she also tells Rhaenyra too that she blames basically her for her son's death with
Mhm.
what was her son's name? Larry or
Lenore. Yeah,
Len-
she finds out that he
uh,
was actually probably killed at sea, and, you know, kinda is like, "I blame you for this." Um, Insinuating that, um, she was probably implicit in the assassination, even though she likely knows the real truth.
exactly, even though she knows that he's really alive and
Yeah.
he's okay, but still, you know, but I like how she still covers it up and said, "I never altered the attack or anything like that. I never did anything of that kind."
Mhm.
But I thought for sure we would actually see the evil person who does the hits for Allison, though.
Yeah. No sighting of him, which means something's coming.
Right.
But
And
he's
you
coming.
see, he's coming, but that's another thing I want to mention too is I felt like there was a storm that's coming. You can see
Mhm.
it on the outside. You know how I mentioned this
Oh,
before,
yeah.
Nick? Like like last episode was like the calm before the storm, where you actually see this darkness surrounding this family, and
Mhm.
now you actually see the storm outside. That's like a little bit of a foreshadowing of what's happening with this family, the storm
Mhm.
that's brewing within them.
Yeah.
And I might be over exaggerating with it or whatever, but that's how I'm viewing it as a viewer in the
Mhm.
foreshadowing of it.
No, I
But
think it's spot on.
because I'm trying to look at it a different perspective
Mhm.
than what most people do, and that's how I actually use things. But you know, I think that this was actually a perfect send off for Viseria. I think this is actually a
Mhm.
perfect episode. There is nothing that I can't say that they didn't. They're all doing their job
Mhm.
as far as acting goes, and it was just a perfect send off.
Yeah, he really carried us all the way as far as his character can go, basically. Because I mean, we can only see the old guy withering for so long, but
Right.
he ultimately got everything in order as far as he was concerned, right? His heir is established. He did end up having sons, um, and he had a peaceful rule. So, like, yeah, he's dying and it sucks, but it's a good way to go. And I think the show really did his character justice because he's been awesome throughout the entire series.
I agree, and especially when he wasn't afraid to show deterioration on his face. It's like,
Hmm.
look, everybody else is not hiding who they are. I'm not going to hide who I am.
Yeah, no more
So
masks.
I like how he removes the mask and how the audience is also just as shocked as what the characters are after
Hmm.
not seeing him for 6 years.
Yeah, like no eye, face is deteriorated completely. Yeah.
Dude is messed up.
Those Indiana Jones memes were like pretty accurate though.
I
From
didn't see the
episode
Indiana Jones memes. I just saw
yeah.
like basically they some memes that I follow is basically show without context, and it shows Viseri up in heaven looking down over the family, and then you see some other stuff happening. But I want to talk about the assassin guy that works for Ellison though,
Mhm,
because I think that makes sense for him not to be there. Because,
mhm.
like I said before, he's going to be your guy who, if you want someone taken care of.
Yeah.
With Otto, he's going to be part of the political movement of this Game of Thrones for Allison.
Mhm.
So for political gaining political power. So it makes sense for Otto to be there, but not for Lord Middlefinger to be there.
Yeah, he's also now the head of his family technically too, because he murdered
Right.
everybody else. See it as you will. It's how it worked back then.
That's how they're
But
doing it now, in the words of
yeah,
Tony Stark.
exactly. Kind of pop him off. But yeah, so like, now that he's the head of his family, maybe he's just back home actually doing the governing that is his duty, while at the same time like maintaining his network of spies and assassins.
Well, I think that's everything that I had wanted to cover as far as this
Mhm.
episode goes. What about you?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, this one, while it was the full hour episode as usual, I mean, pretty self-contained.
It was.
Yeah,
It didn't feel like anything was wasted. It also didn't feel like it was a filler episode.
not at all. No.
And it eases us into episode 9 where we mourn over Viserys probably because this is that was our last time jump.
Mhm.
So now we're
Now
into
the fighting begins.
yes.
Yeah.
So now I can't wait to see what we have.
Yes. Me too.
So all right, so that's going to be it for our House of the Dragon episode 8 review. Go on ahead, smash that like button, smash that smash that like button as well. Also, too, don't forget to comment below if you've seen House of the Dragon. Are you a fan of House of the Dragon? Tell us what you think of the show and everything. It doesn't matter what we think; it's a matter of what you guys think and what you guys saw too. So, here's the thing: interact with us. Comment on the chat board. Comment after our show. Tell us what you think. I want to have a conversation with you guys. I want to have a community with you guys. So tell me what you guys think about that. Also, too, tomorrow night, 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Time, I'm going to have Western Reviews on with me. And him and I are going to be reviewing a little Stephen King movie that dropped on Netflix called Mr. Harrigan's Phone. And this is actually based off a short story from the book of Let It Bleed. So go on and check that out at 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. We have some more stuff dropping. Matter of fact, Thursday, we're dropping another trailer reaction. And that's going to be our last trailer reaction that we're dropping. Matter of fact, that would actually be, you know what? I forgot the name of the trailer, but stay tuned for that. But then Friday, I'm dropping my facts about Poker Diced. So I actually did like an 8-minute video of different fun facts about the movie Poker Dice from the 1980s film. So go on ahead, check all that out at Movie Lovers Unite. And always until next time, guys, it's been fun. It's been real. Stay safe out there. And we'll see you again very soon.